What's up, everybody? It's your boy Wings of Redemption, and I'm back, and I'm gonna bring one of my favorite YouTubers of all time on here. You probably don't know him. He's been kind of flying under the radar for a long time. He used to have a lot bigger channel than he had. I don't quite remember how that worked. Let's go and introduce him. It's Necroscope86. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello there, folks, and that was I have to admit, man, that was a very, very, very flattering introduction. I certainly appreciate that. That was very nice. I'm blushing, if I could say so.
Yeah, just listen to his voice. He's got that classy British voice.
I wouldn't say classy, but again, I appreciate that. You mentioned, I think you remembered it slightly wrong there.
Well, when I first started watching you, YouTube was on the very old layout when you had all your LPs in like at the right side, and then you didn't have ads on any of them. You didn't get ads till like 3 years later,
yeah,
and then you re-uploaded them.
I mean, what happened? Well, you're absolutely right though, man. I did 2010, I think it was. I kind of quit for a while, but then I came back. That was a very flattering introduction. I certainly appreciate that. I'll just stop laughing now in a weird way. Yeah,
but you re-uploaded all your videos, and like
I did say yes.
And like I understand why you did it, to maybe get the because that's content you created that you couldn't get paid for at this point because the residual views weren't going to be as much as the re-uploads.
I mean, the reason was that I was kind of really annoyed with myself that I didn't have the originals anymore, so I had to kind of do. Well, as you say, I did like everything. So I think about back end of 2010 to sort of 2011, I was literally just redoing old games, if you know what I mean. But in the other way I look at it is that at the end of the day, I did it in higher quality because I learned a lot, about how to record, what programs to use, that kind of stuff. So it had a positive outcome in the end, I suppose. Some kind of a positive.
The boring part of YouTube.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing more fun than learning a new recording program.
Oh. Man, and we were saying this earlier before we started. I mean, I think there's so much that actually goes on behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people really realise. I think that's fair to say. With like sort of various programs and compression. Could go on for ages about it.
How about programs that want you to that only record a percentage of the screen, and you have to adjust it after the fact because the display is so outdated to what the actual display of YouTube is, that is the black bars, and then you want to fight the black bars like a passion.
Oh, you're speaking about half my editing life there, I think, Wings, in what you've just described there for certain games that you have to do that on. Well, the editing side of it, I'm still only just really getting to grips with a decent editor. I mean, I don't know what you use, but I use Virtual Dub for basic stuff. I've also moved on now to Vegas, and moving from Virtual Dub to Vegas is a huge jump for me because the kind of what do you use actually? I'm talking a lot there, but
I use Sony Vegas 10.
Ah, there you go then. Have you used it for a long time?
I started on 8 and I moved up to 10. I haven't went past 10, mainly because it costs money.
Right.
It's like I get tired of ripping them. I mean, I'm probably talking about illegal stuff here, but like I'm not paying $700 for that program. I don't think anybody in their mind on YouTube has paid money for it.
Wings coming out with it all now. I just bought one. Movie Studio HD or something, and it's good. But if you hadn't used it before, my gosh, I was an idiot when I was first using it. I'm still only just getting to grips with the darn thing. But
so I guess this next question it doesn't really have a bearing on you. Like, you ever watch TV and you see like the local edited stuff, like car commercials and stuff, and you're like, I can do a better job than that.
It does. I think you do get to a point where you probably could. I agree with you there.
I'm looking at them like. I see people like HTC commercials and like local car lots, and they have this like just like a still image fly in and like confetti and stuff pop up. I'm like, this guy, I could do better than this.
Should write in and just sort of say, excuse me, it's unacceptable. Well, that's the thing though. Now we live in an age where the average person with enough sort of time can look at a program and do better than basic editors. So it's exciting in that way, but I'm still an absolute idiot.
Let me go ahead and put the disclaimer out there. I'm not claiming that I'm a good editor. I am probably the bottom of the barrel. I'm just saying there's people out there worse than me that actually are working in the editing field, and I do it, and I'm self-taught.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here.
I mean, I think a lot of people are, but like, one thing that scared me about YouTube for the longest time was people from Hollywood coming into YouTube. Like, if you understand this, TV has gone really downhill lately. Like, the History Channel pretty much has no history on it. You know, there's wrestling on the Sci-Fi Channel.
So I just like the idea that that's a good quote. That the History Channel has no history on it. I like it.
Yeah, I'm watching History Channel, watching Shelby the Swamp Man. It's like I'm watching Monday Night Raw on the Science Fiction Channel.
We live in a strange world. Strange world.
Well, what it is TV's falling. TV is going down. I give it another 5, maybe 10 years, and then everything's going to transfer straight up to the internet. And is the people that work in the TV field will come to the internet as well.
They will.
And that's slowly starting to happen.
The thing is, they don't really get the internet, I don't think, because they're so used to that kind of television, field, or whatever you call it. That it's different. It's totally different. Like, the biggest example is what we're talking about, YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. I can watch YouTube, various YouTubers that I'm subscribed to, look for new stuff, and I guarantee it, if I went on TV, there's nothing even close to that. I mean, I'm obviously a big gamer. We're both gaming channels. There's nothing on There's nothing on TV now. There's not one, apart from Doctor Who. I've got to get a word in for Doctor Who, right?
That's a British thing, isn't it?
It is indeed, but that's the only thing I watch. I mean, I've got a really nice TV in my front room, right? I can only remember... I can't remember the last time I sat down there and watched it. It's all on YouTube now. It's just...
Oh, dude,
I fell 5 years into the future.
I fell asleep last night watching your Legend of Grimrock Let's Play.
Yes. Now, that is a very good game, Legend of Grimrock.
It's a great game, and, I look at it and I'm like, I want to play that game.
Yeah.
And it's like...
But that's because it brings back memories of, I think we're similar ages, I think. So you'd probably... I'd imagine you were into this kind of, Eye of the Beholders, Lands of Law, those kind of dungeoneering type games.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, was the classic era of gaming. No two ways about it.
Well,
that was it for me.
Let me kind of explain my, obviously the Commodore 64 was a little before my time. I was born in 86, and 86 is when Nintendo came out. It was either 86 or 85, I forget. But the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, so Mario and all the staples of the game came out right around there. But
that's right.
I wasn't... Obviously, I couldn't play video games then because I was 1. But around 5 or 6 is when I actually started getting into video games, where I started, understanding, these are video games. One of my earliest memories is beating Super Mario Brothers, because I had the Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt Edition.
Right.
But,
was that when it was like a joint thing, was it?
Yeah, it was like a joint. It came together on the same cartridge.
Right, okay.
So I started branching out looking for other things, and I went into my cousin's house and he had this computer-looking thing. It was called a Commodore 64. It had a keyboard on it, the big yellow monitor. You remember the monitor?
I do. Gosh, that's brought back. My God, yeah. Right. Okay.
And he had Eye of the Beholder, and I was like, oh my God, he's got Eye of the Beholder. This is so much cooler than my Nintendo.
I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously you can guess the year I was born. There's not two ways about it. My username's Necroscope86. That was my year as well.
Yeah.
I went a kind of different route to you, I think, Wings. I kind of went the Sega route, in that I started with Master System, which was a very, I would say, underrated console. It never, I don't know about in the US, but over here it never really took off. It was overshadowed, obviously, by its big brother, the Mega Drive or the Genesis, when that came out. But yeah, it was a very similar experience. I started with a Master System. Sonic 1 was the original one I had, obviously the very first one. And then as soon as I got I went to the Amiga almost straight away, though, when I was probably about 4 or 5, similar to you. And I never looked back, really, in those kind of... Up until the Sony PlayStation came out, I was an Amiga fanboy through and through. I had everything for mine.
Amiga Master Race?
Say again, sorry?
The Amiga Master Race?
Oh, the Amiga, man. Oh, I've still got mine upstairs, funnily enough.
Sadly, I don't. I sold my original Nintendo when I was 14.
That poor Nintendo.
Well, it didn't have work anymore.
It still gave you all of its life, though. And what do you go and do?
I used every bit of it.
You just used and abused it.
Yeah.
And chucked it away.
But actually, my next system after the Nintendo wasn't the Super Nintendo. It was the Sega Genesis.
Oh, Okay, so you switched sides. Fair play.
Well, it's
I never had one.
because the Sega Genesis came out before the Super Nintendo, and it was like 16-bit versus 8-bit, and like I just jumped on it right then, kind of like the guys did with the Xbox. I mean, the Xbox jumped with just after the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Or the Dreamcast would be a better example. The Dreamcast popped up with the the 64-bit stuff before the PlayStation and the Xbox came out, so people jumped to the Dreamcast and then it failed.
I mean, to be honest, I liked the Dreamcast. I was quite a fan of it. But my big kind of transition was to a PS1. But I think there's something to be said about that kind of generation that we come from where we had as you mentioned, Commodores, Amigas. I mean, I'm going to bring one game up that, to this day, it changed. You mentioned it as well. It changed my life. Eye of the Beholder. When I first played that game, that was my first experience like any type of RPG or Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't even know about the world until then. It rocked my world, man. That one game. I have huge amount of memories of hot summer afternoon, sitting there wading through dungeons, and I was loving it. Hours ago.
I didn't know what I never beat the game. I haven't.
Did you not?
Still to this day, I haven't beat Eye of the Beholder. But I'll tell you a game I did beat that reminded me of Eye of the Beholder. I bet you can almost guess it. Do you want to give it a try?
Are we talking? So it's a dungeoneering game. We're talking.
Mm-hmm. It's on Sega.
It's on what? Sorry.
It's on the Genesis.
On the Genesis. Go on, tell me.
Shining in the Darkness.
Ah, right. I haven't played it myself, but I do know of it.
Right. Because I was too young to beat Eye of the Beholder. I was like 5 or 6, but I loved the idea. I remember the first area, you like pick up rocks and like throwing daggers and
sorry, I interrupted you there, but don't forget there's the bones as well in the first bit.
Yeah, the bones and I think the furthest I got was like level 3.
This is how bad it is. That is actually still the sewer area.
Yes.
That's the last level of the sewers.
Yes, I never got out the sewer area.
Well, the thing is with me, I say this on my blooming Let's Play a bit as well. I've kind of got a curse with the ending, right? Completed it on my Amiga 1200 back in the day. It never loaded the ending cutscene, right? I don't know why. There was just something wrong with it that would not load it.
Was yours on the floppies?
Yeah, it was. It was on floppies. Oh, that's something you never hear anymore, do you? God.
Dude.
I bet some of our people watching this video, right, like floppies? What the hell are they on about?
3.5 inches, bitch.
That is actually a floppy disk, folks, which you just never see. I mean, my PC doesn't even have a slot for them anymore. I mean, those are the 80s and 90s, man. Here's how bad it was, and I bet Wings can relate. Mm-hmm. One game I had for my Amiga, I kid you not, had 15 different floppy disks.
You
when you
were
playing it, you had to switch them like every half an hour.
How big was a floppy disk? Like, wasn't it like 1 megabyte?
1 meg. I think is it 1.5, something like that.
Yeah, 1.5 megabytes. I mean, like a song, an MP3 is worth 2 of these floppy disks.
Oh God, yeah, that's a good example. Blooming hell.
It's like they didn't hold very much information, and like it's impressive what they actually could put visuals on the game, and the coding and all
really
on these 1.5 megabyte floppy disks, and like it was fantastic. Another thing the floppy disk kind of remind me of, which is a little later, more toward the middle of the 90s, you got the personal computer coming into the house.
Yeah.
And like they had those full motion video games, FMVs.
Okay.
Did you play those any?
Give me some examples. Sorry.
Like Phantasmagoria, Wing Commander.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
And like they came on like 8 fucking compact disc.
I know.
Like the compact disc was like 715 MB or something like that. And like they put these full motion videos on them, and they just destroyed all the room of them.
They did. Yes. It's getting me so nostalgic just thinking back to those days.
Yeah.
I mean,
opening a door, putting another CD in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I know I'm going backwards a little bit here with the floppy disk one, but XCOM Enemy Unknown, the original, or XCOM UFO Defense, I think it's known in the US. Mm-hmm. I can remember that if you didn't install it to your hard drive, which you could do, that was it wasn't as easy as it sounds, folks. Back then, it was still difficult to install stuff to a hard drive, or it was to me anyway, being like 8 or something.
Hard drives were only like 32 MB back in the day, anyway.
Yes. Oh, I'm getting so nostalgic, man. This is ridiculous. With the XCOM game, right? Every time you touched down at a mission, it required a double disc swap, which now is mind-boggling. Like, when what you play... I mean, we live in an amazing era of gaming. There's no two ways about it. But people now just don't even remember those days, you know? Because it's just sad, man. There was so much... We've just changed so much over the years. I can't still quite get over it. Like Steam, for example. Can you imagine having that as a kid? I would have lost my mind having that if I was like 8. Just instant download.
I'd have been broke.
Well, yeah. I wouldn't have been able to afford it, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? How things have changed. Oh, those are the days, man.
They were the days, but it kind of shows you how we've been spoiled as gamers. Like,
True.
I don't really like gaming this day and age for a couple reasons. Not because they don't make amazing games, but more across the lines that games are more of like money-making factories now. Back in the day, like Eye of the Beholder, people made that game because they wanted to make that game.
They did.
Money was just a side effect of the success.
Well, I mean, that was it, and it was made by, one of the, in my opinion...
You had like 6 people sitting around coding.
Yeah, that's it. And to think that, if you think about, like, I've always said, I'm not big on graphics to me, and I'm sure you'll be the same. Mm-hmm. Graphics don't make a game, no two ways about it. With Eye of the Beholder, look at the graphics now. It looked like it had been made on MS Paint, that kind of thing. It was basic in a lot of ways, but still revolutionary for the time. And I guarantee, right, that we've gone full circle. Because now, again, you've mentioned Eye of the Beholder, and we've mentioned Grimrock. People are realising that they took such a simple premise back then, but you got involved in it. You created your team of characters, you were adventuring through the halls of Waterdeep and all that kind of thing. And now Grimrock, I think they're probably the only people who are actually still making those type of games. I could be wrong, but there's none. I can't think of any. Can you?
The type of games where you basically create a party from scratch that don't have any kind of like character-driven narrative or anything like that.
Yeah,
I can't think of another one. That came out recently.
There should be, darn it. There should be.
Like, even the RPGs are character-driven with, like, the romantic side plot. And
yeah.
That's pretty much been the staple since the mid-90s. Like, Final Fantasy V was the last one I could remember that you didn't have to name the characters and, you could interchange them. Well, 6 is the same way, I guess. They had character names, but nobody was a main character.
No, because it was a massive cast from 6, wasn't it, from what I know of it. I want
to go to this far back, touching on the games today. Like, I feel like the games today, there's so many Call of Duties, so many Assassin's Creeds, there's so many, what were we on, Dead Space 3, Mass Effect 3. Yeah. There's always a number beside everything because there's so much money investment in games because you have like a cast of like 200 to 300 people to make a game now.
But yeah, I can relate, man. I know what you're saying.
And like, they can't afford to flop. And I don't know if you know who Kurt Schilling is. He's a baseball player that made a game called Kingdom of Alamar.
Right, I don't know that, admittedly, no. Fair play.
Well, Kingdom of Alamar was a game that he spent his entire fortune on, $50 million, and it flopped. So the poor man's broke now. He's like a Boston Red Sox hero.
And he's broke.
He's flat broke because the game flopped. And it's like, it pains me to see that's where gaming has went to. It's went through these Hollywood blockbusters of like Call of Duty Ghost and, Battlefield 4, where unless you're a juggernaut of a company, you can't afford to take a risk. And I feel that that's what killed off the RPG. That's what killed off the dungeon crawler. That people want the big money and they don't want the thing. The little side story characters.
I know exactly what you mean. And the thing is, I think a lot of people as well, the developers of, Grimrock, they're a very, like you said again, they're a small team. They come together because they want to make that game. And obviously they're our age, I think, so they kind of have memories of that, the dungeon crawler, dungeoneering, whatever you want to call it. But I think really, if you look at it from just a fun point of view, Grimrock's so fun. It's ridiculous. You know,
it's immersive.
It takes people back, like us. But even for the people who aren't aware of those type of games, just because there's like you say, there's your Mass Effects, there's your Assassin's Creeds. Yeah,